Good morning, Rotarians and guests. Welcome to our meeting. I'm Joe Avella, President of the Hudson Rotary Club. Our invocation this morning is by Liz Ramsey.
Good morning.
Good morning, Liz.
Let's pray. You, God, are awesome and powerful, and we praise you for giving us your Son, Jesus. We are God's masterpiece, each and every one of us, and we each have many gifts to share with the world. And we thank you for your blessings and how you take care of us and what you've given us. Thank you for our food, drink, clothing, places to live, and our livelihood. In Jesus' name, amen.
And back from Japan is Allison Feaster, who will lead us in the pledge and the four-way test.
Konnichiwa. We'll start with the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, the four-way test. First,
Is the truth.
second,
Fair to all concerned.
third,
Will build goodwill and better friendships.
fourth.
Will be beneficial to all concerned.
Thank you, Allison. You may be seated. We will start.
No song?
No song. Dick's not here today.
Liz will lead it.
Liz, you want to lead us in a song?
Okay.
Please rise and we'll have a song.
Okay. God bless America.
That's an easy.
Okay. God bless America. Loud.
Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans wide the flow. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Liz. This morning we begin our speaker series on Entrepreneurial Month. And I'd like Bill Wooldridge to introduce our speaker this morning.
Good morning, Rotarians.
Good morning, Bill.
I first met our speaker quite a few years ago around the theme of Lemonade Day. You'll probably talk a bit about it, but it's a wonderful experience for the kids. And ever since, well, Greg is a 1983 founded Technical Software and served as its president until selling the business to a public company in 2000. Greg was an Inc. magazine Entrepreneur of the Year finalist, and for 7 years in a row his company was a Weatherhead School of Management Top 100 Growth Company. We have a real entrepreneur with us. In 2005, Greg founded the Young Entrepreneur Institute, which focuses on K through 12 entrepreneurship education. Greg has won numerous awards for his work with entrepreneurship education, including the Teacher of the Year by the Network for Teaching Entrepreneurship, Outstanding Entrepreneurship Educator by the Consortium for Entrepreneurship Education, and the Levy Award for Excellence in Private Enterprise Education by the Freedoms Foundation. The Young Entrepreneur Institute believes that every child should understand and experience entrepreneurship. We believe that entrepreneurship education and experience can make subjects such as math and writing more relevant to students. We also believe that the intangibles necessary to become a successful entrepreneur, perseverance, hard work, managing adversity, overcoming failure, problem solving, directly mirror characteristics necessary for success in life. Every year, YEI helps hundreds of schools and organizations launch and expand their entrepreneurship programs, inspiring thousands of kids. Greg holds a Bachelor of Science degree from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT, and a master's degree in education for Ursuline College. It's great to have you here, Greg.
So, can you all hear me?
You gotta be on the mic.
I gotta be on the mic?
We have a hand.
Oh, yeah, do you have a hand on that further? I'm a teacher, I like to wander around. Does this work? Does this work? Yes. All right. Let's see if we can make that full screen. Okay. So, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. As Bill said, I'm Greg Malkin, founder of the Young Entrepreneurs Institute. And we really focus and believe that helping students understand and experience entrepreneurship is really a critical life skill for them. And it's not just understanding. So certainly we teach the basics of entrepreneurship, financial literacy, things like that. But it's the experience of entrepreneurship that really has a profound impact on the kids. And as I go through and explain what we do, I think you'll see that experiential learning is really a core part of what we do. So what I want to do today, I'm going to quickly go through some of the activities that we support and do, and then open it up for questions. I do want to apologize. So I'm actually a teacher as well. So I have a class at 8:45 up in Hunting Valley. So I do have to, I've set an alarm actually on my phone for 5 after 8. I'm afraid I have to leave. Because if I don't show up in class, no class, right? The kids are happy to not have class. Okay, so first of all, we're based at University School, but we do lots of things at University School, which I'll talk about. But actually, much more than that, we work across Northeast Ohio in a variety of ways. One of the things that Bill mentioned was Lemonade Day. And Hudson is a wonderful city for Lemonade Day. Pretty much every elementary school in Hudson, public and private, does Lemonade Day. Let me grab my bag here. So you're all familiar with a lemonade stand, a classic American thing, which, by the way, I've spoken about youth entrepreneurship all over the world. And so I always like to do a quick survey. So how many of you have ever visited a lemonade stand? Yeah. So if you do this in any other country in the world, the only people who raise their hands are Americans. I mean, literally, the only ones who raise their hand are Americans. The other question I have then is, how many of you, when you visited the lemonade stand, actually wanted lemonade? Yeah, that's also pretty universal, okay? And so the reason what's interesting is the reason we do that, Americans do that, is we want to support that entrepreneurial spirit in our young people. That's why we do it, right? We want to support them. It's fun. Hey, what are you selling? You engage with the young person, right? It's a wonderful American tradition. So Lemonade Day takes that tradition and includes some curriculum. So the students get a little backpack bag. And there's workbooks that really teach the basics of business around a lemonade stand. There's also a guide for the parents as well, because a fourth grader, a 10-year-old, 9-year-old really can't do it on their own. But if you think about a lemonade stand, it really is no different than Walmart. A lemonade stand has problems with location, customer service, pricing, inventory. There's R&D for your recipe. I mean, every little piece of a real business is simply scaled down. So this is a program that we do mostly with elementary school kids. We do have a program with the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, CMSD. We are in the second year of a pilot. The goal ultimately is to have every 7th grader do a lemonade stand and have that experience. It's a partnership with the Western Reserve Historical Society, where in 4th and 5th grade, CMSD kids go to Hale Farm and learn about the early entrepreneurs in Northeast Ohio. So the blacksmith, the farmer, the trader, those are all entrepreneurs. Our region was founded by entrepreneurs. They see that at Hale Farm. Then they go to the the History Center. I don't know if any of you have been there recently, but it's really now very focused on entrepreneurship. They talk about the entrepreneurs, the John D. Rockefellers and the Whites and so on. And then that's in 6th grade. In 7th grade, they have a real experience. So Lemonade Day is a big program that we do. And Eastwoods Elementary School, Emmanuel Christian, I think actually the only school that doesn't do it is WRA, actually. I hate to say it. So that's one program we do. Then again, we're very much about the experiential part of entrepreneurship. So if you've ever been to the Hudson Farmers Market, periodically we will have a young entrepreneur market. So what we've done with the Hudson Farmers Market, Shaker Square, Crocker Park Farmers Markets, and actually we're have an agreement with a office building downtown, a couple office buildings downtown, where we've made all the arrangements for the kids. Because one of the hardest things for kids is actually making arrangements to have the space to sell their stuff. So we've done that already, where we have a tent, tables and chairs. We've got the contracts with the farmers markets. All the kids have to do is sign up and show up and sell their stuff. So these are kids from the past who've sold stuff. This young man here, William Willoughby with his Ola Granola, he's done this probably 15, 20 times now. He has a regular following at the Shaker Square Farmers Market. He sells thousands of dollars worth of his granola. He's an 8th grader, to give you an idea of how old these kids are. You may have seen in Heinen's on some bottles of Coca-Cola or Coke products this tag. This is a program that we put together in Northeast Ohio, Teen Tech Tank. It's a elevator pitch competition where kids submitted a 1-minute video and they were judged. Basically, they had come up with an idea for a business, develop a 1-minute commercial, if you will. Great setup. We had great sponsors. So Coca-Cola was a sponsor. McDonald's. There were a few. We're on the east side of Cleveland. Every bag that you went to McDonald's got this little postcard promoting it. But the prizes were great. A year's supply of Coca-Cola. Best Buy was behind this. The kids got a laptop. There was a cash prize. And probably best of all, Cleveland State. We partnered with Cleveland State. The winners were eligible for a 4-year full scholarship to the business school at Cleveland State. It was phenomenal. And for the kids, probably best of all, they got to pitch their idea to Damon John of Shark Tank. So Damon John was at our school. I'll talk about that in a minute. And they got to pitch the idea. So we got entries from 17 schools around Northeast Ohio. There were the judging was done by public voting. We had about 30,000 public votes, and then we had a group of 7 area business people pick the top 5 winners. So that's another program. We have one in the spring that we are just about to, we're going to be kicking off shortly. Another elevator pitch competition, regional video competition, watch for it. It's called the Selling Bee, not the spelling bee, but the Selling Bee. And it is targeted, this Teen Tech Tank was for high school kids. The Selling Bee, we're going to have 2 basically divisions in the competition, one for kindergarten through 4th, and then a separate competition for 5 through 8. And those are 30-second commercials. Make it a little shorter for the kids. We have an event once a year called Celebrate Youth Entrepreneurship, where we bring in a speaker, and about 1,000 kids come and hear the speaker during the day. It's in April. Last year, we had Clint Greenleaf, who, actually it's a great book about Beyond the Piggy Bank. That picture is the adult guide, but it's actually a picture book. This is targeted at 3rd and 4th graders. So he took you all know the story of 3 Little Pigs? Okay, so what happens after the pigs build their brick home? This is the sequel to the 3 Little Pigs. So they build their brick home. What does the wolf do? Of course, he's still hungry. So he goes after the rest of the animals in the forest. So what do the animals in the forest do? They go to the 3 Little Pigs and say, hey, can you build me a brick home? So the 3 Little Pigs go into business, building brick homes. And that is the story of Beyond the Piggy Bank. It's really a great book. And it's a picture book, it's for kids. So none of them, no animals were harmed in this story. We also manage a regional program, so there's a consortium of 18 schools, 8 public, 10 private schools in Northeast Ohio called the Veal Youth Entrepreneurship Forum. It's funded by the Veal Foundation. You guys may have heard of Tinkham Veal. He funded the Student Center and other things at Case Western Reserve. He also funds this youth program. He's passed away, but we manage that program, so we organize various activities. We have a pitch fest, we have a business plan competition, we have professional development for the teachers. The Veal Foundation is, I have to say, is a strong supporter of youth entrepreneurship in Northeast Ohio, but by far the most important organization in Northeast Ohio is the Burton D. Morgan Foundation. They really have helped make Northeast Ohio a world leader in youth entrepreneurship. I cannot say enough about Deb Hoover and her team. They are just amazing, amazing people. Very underappreciated in Northeast Ohio. I could talk for a half hour about how all the wonderful things they do, not just in youth entrepreneurship, but collegiate entrepreneurship and adult entrepreneurship. We have really a world-class organization right in our backyard, and most people don't know about it. We also do professional development for teachers. So we put on a conference called Inspire with an E. These are the speakers that we had this past November. One of them was Damon John from Shark Tank. He was phenomenal. Talked about his life story as an entrepreneur. We also had a couple of the kids who were on Shark Tank. I don't know how many of you are fans of Shark Tank, but if you've ever seen Michaela with her Be Sweet Lemonade, she is 11 years old, I think, at this point. Amazing speaker. Just blew everybody's socks off. And this, let's see. For the laser pointer? The laser pointer?
No. Oh, I'm sorry.
The laser pointer? Okay, anyways. Mosiah, if you know about Mose Bose, the bow tie guy, he was also on stage here in Cleveland. Jessica Jackley runs the, there's a Center for Entrepreneurship at MIT. She was there. It was just a great program. And we had about 200 to 300 teachers all day, basically sharing best practices, learning about entrepreneurship, and getting motivated to teach kids about entrepreneurship. So we do all this stuff around the region, and that's just a real quick overview. We do actually other things in the region for entrepreneurship. But at University School, which is, if you're not familiar, it's a boys' school, private boys' school on the east side of Cleveland. It's got a total of about 840 boys altogether from K to 12. We have a very, very active entrepreneurship program there. So we do Lemonade Day in the elementary school. Just kicking off Entrepreneur Club. So, we've got 80 kids signed up for that. So I've got 80 like 12 and 13-year-olds. So when we have a meeting, the energy level is, because it's from 3 to 4, it's after school, and they've just had their snack, and the kids are, blah. But it's fun. It's a riot. But that club, and really everything we do, for example, that club we meet, and the whole purpose of the club is getting them ready. We have a small young entrepreneur fair where they sell their stuff. So again, it's all about having the experience of entrepreneurship, learning about it, but having the experience. At the high school, we have, honestly I can say, we have the most robust entrepreneurship program of any high school in the world. Certainly on the private school space, definitely, and even in the public school space, it is one of the most robust. So we have classes, competitions. We run summer apprenticeship programs where the kids apprentice with an entrepreneur in the summer, really learn firsthand what that life is like as an entrepreneur. Like I said, teach classes. The Anderson Scholar Program, kids can actually major in business at a university school. I mean, it's majoring in business. They obviously get a high school diploma, but they have to take all the classes. They actually have to start a business, do all the activities. So it's a really rich program. And we've really developed an entrepreneurial culture now at university school where lots of kids are actually starting their own businesses. So we have lots of businesses going on. And that's really how they really learn the spirit of entrepreneurship. So I am an unabashed capitalist. I preach the gospel of capitalism. That's what I do. I'm I'm a little bit of a fish out of water in schools. You know, most teachers are, I can tell you, most teachers are not capitalists. But I really believe that this is a huge missing piece in K through 12 education. And so I just really think it's important for these kids to have this experience. And even if they don't become an entrepreneur, perseverance, public speaking, customer service, there's so many things, financial literacy, so many life skills that kids get out of entrepreneurship, whether they become entrepreneurs or not. We really believe that every student should learn about and understand entrepreneurship. Northeast Ohio, a lot of people don't know it. Northeast Ohio has probably the most robust youth entrepreneurship ecosystem in the world. Actually, a couple people have actually said that, people who would know. So lots of great organizations. We have a very strong junior achievement organization here. The Girl Scouts, a lot of people don't understand that there's a whole curriculum behind the cookie sales. It is a great, great experience for the girls. A wonderful program. Probably the largest youth entrepreneurship program in the world. Seton Catholic, they've embedded that's a school here in this area. They've embedded entrepreneurship literally into the class, so into the arts class, into the history class, into the math class. It's actually part of the curriculum. It's pretty amazing. So all kinds of just really great things going on. Wow, I talk really fast, don't I? Any questions anybody's got?
Well, I'll
Yeah.
I'll lead off with one. And then so have you been able to integrate this with other curricula at the school? I mean, it seems like mathematics, English, on and on and on could be integrated with the entrepreneurial program.
Yeah, that's a great question. So how integrated is it into the rest of the curriculum? That is a challenge. That is a challenge, I will say, for a number of reasons. One of which, particularly in the public schools, it's much harder in the public schools, particularly in, let's say, a school like CMSD and some other. There's so much push around Common Core and kind of standard curriculum that the teachers are hard-pressed to open up space for this. It's easier in the private schools. Private schools already start with advantages because those kids, pretty much like at US, 100% of our kids pass these tests, Ohio graduation tests and things like that. So we don't actually have to spend any time teaching to the test. And so integrating it in is much easier. So for example, at our school, give you an example, for the, if I go back, for the young entrepreneur market, let's see if I can go back to that. Yeah, so that logo was actually designed by a student. We organized a regional design competition, which we connected with the art teachers. And I think we had entries from 12, 15 schools. And basically it was integrated into the art department. So rather than just doing design for whatever, it was actually, okay, you're going to design for the logo for our organization, for the T-shirts, and that's the sort of thing we do. It's experiential. Yes?
Yes, I'm curious. I saw your junior achievement logo up there.
Yeah.
How do you interact with JA?
So JA, they do wonderful, wonderful things. So actually, that's a great question. So one of the things that's unique about our organization, so Junior Achievement does a great job, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, but Junior Achievement, the Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, they are very focused on their own programs. And do a great job with that. What's different about our organization, we are, I would call ourselves non-denominational. We support all youth entrepreneurship. So I work very closely with Junior Achievement to promote Junior Achievement into schools. So one of the things we do, which I think I mentioned, or maybe I didn't mention it when I talked about, so we do educational conferences, but we also do a lot of consulting. So a big part of what we do, actually it's a big part of what we do, schools, actually let me give you an example. So 3 years ago, the superintendent of Chagrin Falls Schools contacted us and said they want to bring entrepreneurship education to the high school. The Burton D. Morgan Foundation provides funding to my organization to give free consulting to school districts. CMSD was the same way. They approached us. And so I worked with the principal and superintendent to develop a job description for what they should look for in terms of hiring a teacher. They hired the teacher, and then I worked with the teacher to develop the curriculum. And part of that curriculum is incorporating junior achievement programs into it. So what I try to do is identify what the schools are trying to do and find the best curriculum rather than having them reinvent the wheel. There's really no point in that. The other thing we do, I worked with actually this region's Boy Scouts. There's a Boy Scout camp not too far from here, summer Boy Scout camp not too far from here. Mike Jones is the executive director for this region's Boy Scouts. And there is an entrepreneur badge, but they were struggling with how to basically teach the badge. So I worked with them to develop curriculum and so on to in their summer camp so they could teach the badge at the summer camp. So we support the Boy Scouts, we support junior achievement, we promote junior achievement programs where we think it's a fit. Yeah, and if that answers your question. So. Other questions? Yeah.
So our high school, our high school has a business club and business classes, and we're actually connected with JA as well, but we don't have a lot of interest shown by the students. How can we increase the interest in those business classes, because they're getting canceled and the principal is just deleting them?
So what school, can I ask what school it is?
Oh, Hudson High School.
What is it?
Hudson High School?
Hudson High School, okay.
So I'm on the board.
Okay, so you have an amazing, I'm so shocked at what you're telling me, because Betty Banks Burke, is she still there?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she's amazing. So I'm shocked that, I'm surprised. But I will say it's a challenge, and I have the same challenge at our school. I don't know how many of you really familiar with the current state of the college admissions process for kids. It is insane, totally insane. There is such a demand. It is so competitive that lots of kids want to take nothing but AP classes, right? There's so much pressure to take AP classes. And unfortunately, entrepreneurship is not an AP thing. There's no such thing as AP. If there was an AP entrepreneurship class, that would solve the problem in a minute, okay? Totally in a minute.
Actually, the classes we're talking about, not only entrepreneurship, but accounting, regular business class, preparation classes.
Right.
Do you have those as well?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So I teach Entrepreneurship 101, and I teach management, strategy, management accounting, and so on. So part of it is fighting that problem, okay? So that's one problem. What I do is I'm just constantly, it's marketing. I mean, the answer is marketing, which I think Betty really knows. And I'm happy to help her, but it's really marketing. I get up in front of, we have morning assembly, I get in front of the school, and I'm constantly promoting the programs. We have lots of competitions. And I know she does too. I should follow up with Betty. She's a wonderful person and does an amazing job. So I'm surprised to hear that it's declining enrollment. That's too bad.
I'm curious, for the younger, or maybe even the youngest entrepreneurs, do you emphasize marketing, research, operations, financial, or all of the above? I guess I'm most interested in whether they understand any of the financial aspects of starting a business.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, basically you have to gear it to the level of the kids. Okay, so in the elementary school, I think I've really made a breakthrough if the kids understand the difference between revenue and profit. When I had my business, my employees, we did 20 million in business. My employees thought I had $20 million in my pocket, and really the employees didn't understand the difference between revenue and profit. So we start at that basic level, revenue and profit. Also, like with Lemonade Day, a big part of Lemonade Day is just teaching the kids, simple math. If you're making a gallon of lemonade and it takes a half a cup of sugar, Now you want to make 3 gallons. How many cups of sugar do you need? I mean, it's basic math, okay? What the kids like with Lemonade Day, the part they like the best is the marketing. The kids love to come up with their elevator pitch, which is basically for them a couple sentences that they scream at the top of their lungs as people walk by, right? It's the poster that they make. But we do talk about, again, it's at different levels, at different complexities. So even at the elementary school level, we talk about competitive advantage. What makes you different and better? So, I mean, that's a very nuanced topic, right? But even a 9-year-old can understand that if 3 people are selling, what's the difference? And actually what I do with the kids is I bring in cookies. And I say, okay, here's a thing of Oreos, here's a thing of homemade chocolate chip cookies, and here's some fancy, Cleveland Browns painted cookies. You've seen those, right? The cookies that look like football. Why would somebody, and on a per cookie basis, we talk about what's the price of the Oreo cookie, and what's the price of the homemade cookie, and what's the price of this cookie, and why would somebody pay $2 for this cookie when they can buy an Oreo for 10 cents? So, you bring it down to their level. Clearly, as we get older and older, and by the time we're in high school, you're teaching, right now in my class, we are in the middle of cash budgeting. So they are working on cash collection schedules, accounts receivable, what net 30 is, and if somebody, 30, 60, 90 days, and all that kind of stuff. And so cash flow management, so we're actually going through cash flow, we'll spend a month on cash flow management. So, you have to, it's age appropriate. You have to do it at age appropriate. The main thing though, but you bring up a very important topic. In my mind, particularly at the younger grades, what we want to do is have them walk away saying, entrepreneurship is fun. We want to make it fun for the elementary school, even the middle school kids. By the time they're high school, they're getting a little more serious. They have a deeper understanding. We still want to make it fun though. We want, number one, to make it fun. And so when kids think about business, they say, wow, this is fun. That it's not just boring math. And that's, because accounting can be a little dry. Can be very dry. What I tell the kids when I'm teaching them accounting and they're complaining about it, I say, okay, when all those numbers represent dollars in your pocket, it's not so boring anymore. So imagine that this is your money that we're talking about. And then it changes. And which is why we make it very experiential, because then it is dollars in their pocket. When it's their business, then it really makes a difference. The other thing we try to do, the other idea here is, ultimately, I think for adults, or even for kids, entrepreneurship is a leap of faith. I don't think, you don't need to know accounting, you don't need to know marketing, you don't need a high school, you don't need a college education for sure to be an entrepreneur. I believe all you really need to be an entrepreneur is a leap of faith. You have to believe in yourself. If you believe in yourself, you can be an entrepreneur. You can find an accountant. You can make it work. But you have to believe in yourself. It's a leap of faith. And so many adults are afraid. They see this chasm opening up before them. They're worried about failure. It's sort of a black box, entrepreneurship. What our goal is have them have an entrepreneurial experience at 9, another one at 12, another one at 17. So by the time they are 25 and got out of college and have some great idea, that leap that they have to make is a small step, right? Because they can say, wait a minute, I did this when I was 9 years old. I did it when I was 12 years old. I did it when I was 17. I can do this. Get them to believe in themselves. That's a really powerful thing. So that's long term. That's what we try to do. Yeah, might be the last question. I got 5 minutes.
Hey, accountants are not boring. I resemble that.
Accountants are not boring. It's the accounting that's boring.
I resemble that remark. No, seriously, what do you call an accountant?
My best friend.
He or she can be your best friend at times. It's an actuary with a personality. But in all seriousness, let's not confuse a good accountant with a good tax advisor, okay? Okay. Tax advisors can save you a lot of money. Yeah. And I do see this, and I've seen it a little bit in my own kids, when you pass a little responsibility on them. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. And they, it's all about budgeting their own finances. They get excited, their eyes perk up, and they're not necessarily always asking for the buck from mom and dad. But I think you need to strike home early the need to be independent, the need to, manage yourself. And I think, well, let's put it this way, not all kids are made the same. Some will go paint a pretty picture, and some would rather, and some might be more infatuated with accounting and budgeting. It just depends on the kid. So I think...
I think the other thing about it, somebody asked about integrating it into the curriculum. The other thing that entrepreneurship does is it makes the education relevant to the kids. So all of a sudden learning about percentages and fractions, which kids hate, by the way. I can tell you universally, kids hate to learn about fractions and percentages. But when you put it in terms of that percentage, if you understand that it's connected to gross margin, it's connected to net margin, those are important concepts. And when they understand the importance of that, all of a sudden it becomes relevant. Writing, all of a sudden becomes relevant. When you have to write your pitch, when you have to write your marketing copy, that becomes, all of a sudden writing becomes very relevant. I spend actually a lot of time in my class at the high school teaching them how to write emails. One of my big pet peeves when I had my business was my employees just did not know how to write a subject line. They never put their contact information in. Drove me nuts. So I teach them how to do a...
one of the things that I really admire about your program is that the kids have to borrow money, if I understand.
Yes.
Working capital is set up. Through the Hudson Community Foundation, I think my family is the one that's the banker. Wow. The deal there is that they have to pay me 32% interest. And if they don't pay up, I've got a guy in Youngstown that comes over and put a dead horse in their bed.
Well, we want to make it real.
Respond very nicely.
Absolutely. It's got to be real. It's got to be real.
Amazing how quickly they respond.
So, but people may not be familiar in the Lemonade Day program. It's something actually that is really started here in Northeast Ohio. Was this idea of loan boards. So a kid has a lemonade stand. Typically, where do they get their money? They get the money from the parents, right? The parents give them the money. Well, that's not the way the real world works. People don't just give you money. You can borrow the money and you have to pay it back. And so we have loan boards where the kids borrow the money to start their lemonade stand. They're borrowing $20, $30, whatever. And in some places, by the way, in Cleveland Metropolitan School Districts, they don't have $20, $30. Okay, they can't open a lemonade stand because they don't have the money. So we have an agreement with Key Bank up in Cleveland where loan officers, and they are loan officers from Key Bank, kids have to do their pitch to the loan officer. Of course, the kids don't know that it's all pre-cooked, pretty much. They're going to get the money. And we have 100% payback. The kids always pay the money back. So they learn that people don't just give you money. Absolutely. Yes, question?
For me, one of the fundamentals of running a business is making payroll. I mean, that is a commitment. Do you deal with that in any particular way?
So that's a great question. Again, in elementary school, we don't. That's a little too much. But absolutely in the high school program, when we're really, talking at a much more complete level about business, I absolutely talk about meeting payroll and lines of credit and things like that. And that's one of the challenges in youth entrepreneurship education is, so I teach it having 30 years experience as an entrepreneur. And so, I had a multi-million-dollar payroll and, that was tough, man. That's a tough nut to crack. So I teach it from a very real, I bring that experience. Also, I bring probably 30 speakers and volunteers into the classroom. The challenge is, in many schools, the person teaching entrepreneurship is a teacher, and it's a little more academic. So they may talk about payroll, but they do it from a very kind of academic, for me, it's a visceral thing. Right. It's a very real thing. So, I try to help schools bring in entrepreneurs to talk about these things so that it becomes more real. Yeah. Other questions? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I could just go on.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you. If you're interested in learning more, I have my cards up here. We have a wonderful website. Thank you so much for having me, and I apologize for having to leave.
Greg, here's your... Okay, very interesting. Okay, so we do have one guest today. That's Adriana Bernardo from Service Learning, helping us on the video. So we'll start off with our 3-minute Rotarian, and I'm going to ask again Liz Ramsey to come. Liz, this is like your 5th time up here.
Well, it must be the day. Well, good morning, Rotarians, again. Good morning, Liz. Okay. Well, it's an intimidating thing to get up in front of people for me. But I need the anxiety to get through the 3 minutes. Yes, it's a challenge, but it is an opportunity to tell you again a little about myself. So this is my story, and I'm sticking to it. And by the way, I'm the happiest and luckiest of women to belong to this wonderful group of Rotarians since 2006, who are so uplifting and a cheerful group every Wednesday morning. And I have 4 children and 12 grandchildren, but not everybody lives close by. And a little more about myself. I have a Bachelor of Arts in Business and a Master's in Education in Counseling, in Rehabilitation Counseling. Both are from Kent State University. I'm generally a well-organized person with strong sales and negotiation skills. And I have, in the past, owned a small group elderly care home in Kent for 23 years, and also ran a small fly ash company where I negotiated sales contracts with clients from the steel manufacturing, pavement, cement block, and construction industries for over 20 years. As well, I coordinated logistics for delivery and transportation of the product. I've also worked with veterans. I have volunteered with faith-based youth and adult groups and sang in a chorus called Gospel Meets Symphony in Akron with the Akron Symphony for 16 years. Now, I'm thinking back to my younger years. My interest in tea parties may have stemmed from when my father, who was a Rhodes Scholar and educated at Oxford University in England, he was sent by Her Royal Highness, Queen Elizabeth, to the British West Indies around the late 1940s to be the judge of the island, and was at that time, the island at that time was a dominion of England. So any time Queen Elizabeth came to visit, a garden party was held with different dignitaries and tea was served. Now, my parents attended. Now, that all ended when a rebellion took place because the island did not want to belong to England anymore. So we had to move and came to the United States and settled in Cleveland Heights, then Lyndhurst. And I've been there ever since I was 7 years old. Now, I might add, I'm passing out, I think everybody got a save the date flyer for all you male Rotarians to hand to your wives, and of course our lady Rotarians. And thanks to Donna Kastner, who did the flyer for me. Now, please remember to remind everybody, if they want, when they come to the tea, to wear a hat and a nice smile. And remind everyone to bring their Rotarian friends, their wives, their daughters, granddaughters, and special friends. And let's make it a success this year, just as it was last year. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you, Liz. So this year, our club has had a long tradition with the Rotary Youth Exchange Program. And although we haven't had a candidate either outbound or inbound for a couple of years now, but this year we do have an outbound candidate, which also obligates us to have an inbound candidate, a Rotary Youth person. And we've appointed Mimi Becker as our Rotary Youth Exchange Officer, RYE Officer. And Mimi's going to come up and just give us a little bit of a background in the Rotary Youth Exchange program. Mimi?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I can't stand behind these things because I can't see over them. So, anyway, for those of us who are, oh, sorry, yeah, I'd rather have that. I'm also a teacher, so I don't normally stand behind the thing. Anyway, what we're trying to do is to re-enter the international arena through the exchange program. And there are a couple of things probably we might want to know about the opportunities for doing that, in addition to having a long-term exchange. And that's the students who come to this country, as well as our students who go elsewhere. And I believe that we do have an application for an outbound student this year. And that would be a long-term commitment, so that if she's approved, it would be a full year of Rotary Exchange internationally. We don't know where the student will be, but if we have an inbound student, which we would be expected to have, that student would come to Hudson. I believe we already have approval of the high school for supporting that student at the high school, but we will need host families, 2 to 3, and those families will be what we call in loco parentis. The families that apply as host families will have an additional, or one, but preferably an additional teenager in the household. And we all know what that is all about. It can be a great deal of fun. When my kids were in high school, we always had an international student of one sort or another, along with possibly a Hiram College student who, for whatever reason, needed another place to roost besides a dorm. So I know from firsthand that the advantages of having a student of another culture, or having your kid go and learn about another culture. My kids, because of the way the school exchange worked, both went to Germany, and they had unforgettable, life-changing experiences, not the least of which was a tour of Bergen-Belsen and Buchenwald, which have had indelible impressions on what they think about why world peace is important. And we've had Japanese students live with us, and in addition to learning Japanese language that I probably shouldn't have learned, because the kids thought it was very funny what I was being taught, and I was told not to speak that Japanese in public, so that gave me a bit of a clue. But I also know that it's the acculturation of an international student to the American way of life is not only interesting, but sometimes challenging, because our way of life is very different, as would their way for our students. So it's a huge opportunity for learning and for having a different view and perspective than we might otherwise have. And the long-term exchanges are really extraordinarily good for that kind of experience. The short-term exchanges might be a tour that's ongoing, it might be a summer program, it might be summer camp, or some other unique summer opportunity that's available. And we haven't really explored that because the immediate need for our club involvement is going to be to support the long-term exchanges. And I can try to answer questions about that, but we do have just a couple of things that the club has some responsibility for. But before I talk about that, we have some upcoming deadlines. And those are things that I'm going to give you a little bit of warning about, because I or my helpers, which Joe, I think this is normally not a one-person show for a club. It involves commitment by the entire organization, but it's also going to involve a group of worker bees. We will have to have, for each student, we have to have someone who is willing to be their counselor, their Rotary counselor, which is an opportunity for someone to really get to know that student and the host family, and to be the person that's the liaison between the student and the school and the student and the host family. And that's a really great opportunity for somebody who is willing to really get to know the student and be a little bit of a security blanket for incoming students. But we have to, and there are other things that the club will be asked to become involved in. We have a March 1st deadline, and we have to have at least one host family that has applied to us for consideration. We're asked to have 3 potential host families for each student. And the outgoing student has the responsibility to make some suggestions for who those families are, but it's also encouraged for the club to make, any club member to make a nomination, or even to volunteer to be a potential host family. But by March 1st, we have to have completed the evaluation of at least one of those. And then by April 2nd, we have to identify and forward the name of a counselor for an inbound student. And I have already recruited a counselor for a student who would come to us as our Rotary exchange student from abroad, and Peter has graciously agreed to do that. We have the school's commitment, so we're going to be easy in making that April 2nd deadline, but there'll be some paperwork associated with that. And then once we have the name of an inbound student and all the documents that come with it, including the police security stuff and all the official State Department documentation that the district helps us with, we have to get that paperwork back so we can get off the ground running, and then figure out when they're coming, so we're at the train or the plane to meet them and bring them here. So there are some other things that we will learn about, and I'm an exchange officer in training because I haven't done this. I run international programs at the university, but that's a whole different ball of wax than when you're dealing with somebody who is between the ages of 15 and 19 and still a teenager, and we know about teenage brains. They're still knitting. So, any questions?
Thank you. Okay. Yes, we'll be briefing you more on the Rotary Youth Exchange program, and actually over the next couple of weeks, Casey Ackerman from 10th grader here in Hudson is the outbound student. We're going to introduce you to Casey over the next couple of weeks, Casey and her family. One thing I forgot to do is to draw the 3-minute Rotarian for 2 weeks out. Next week, it is Phil Herman. That's right, Phil Herman is coming back after a little bit of a time off for an accident. And so Phil Herman is our 3-minute Rotarian next week. So on February 17th, our 3-minute Rotarian will be me. Just drew my name. Whoops. I'll be here. I better write that down. Okay. Okay, James Field has an announcement.
Morning, Rotarians.
Good morning, Jay.
First of all, just on the business class issue, just to clarify. So we have Entrepreneurship Club, which is thriving very well, and we also introduced straight business classes like accounting, finance, and so forth, and that's been a little tough to get kids to sign up for that. And so speaking briefly with our speaker, what I might recommend is that we actually create an entrepreneurship class that would include each of these subjects, and that may be of more interest than just a straight accounting class. But that aside, that's not what I'm here to announce about. The Relay for Life, still coming up. I will send out an email so that you can join our club. It does not require a contribution to join, so I'd love to see if we can get everyone in. So I'll send an email that could be done by email, and then I'll try and bring forms next week also that you could just fill out a paper form. Of course, all contributions, 100% go to American Cancer Society, and I can tell you there's been a lot of great advances against cancer. I mean, still obviously, as we all know, very near and dear issue and not solved at all yet, but still, we really advanced it. And then if you belong to any organizations or companies that would like to sponsor or have a team or otherwise be involved, this Thursday evening at Life Center Plus, I'm pretty sure it's from 6 to 8 p.m. I know there was an announcement in the hub. We'll be having kind of an open house to provide all that information. So if you know anyone interested, maybe at a church or other group that you'd like to, that might want to start a team, that's certainly a good place to start and get that information. Thank you.